With us now, Congressman Adam Smith, ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee. It's good to see you, sir. It sounds like, just from what the president said, that we're not going to war with Venezuela. And if that means they have made major concessions, does that sort of not prove that massive show of force, who knows if Trump's going to do it or not, works?
Yeah, well, I've seen no evidence of any sort of major concessions by Venezuela, so I'd have to see that first. Maduro is not going anywhere, and nothing much has changed, so I don't follow that. I suppose if they made some type of concessions, sure, but that doesn't seem to be what's happening right now. And the fentanyl explanation is troubling because no fentanyl comes out of Venezuela or Colombia, for that matter. So as a justification for war in general, it's highly questionable that fentanyl meets the same definition of a weapon of mass destruction, and it's certainly not even remotely debatable that any fentanyl is coming out of that part of the world.
Okay, so do you think blowing up drug boats is a bad idea?
I think it's illegal, and I don't think it's going to help much in the drug war. Costs a lot of money, places us at risk, undermines us with our allies. Great Britain has now stopped sharing intelligence with us because they think that those actions are illegal. So we've lost a key partner. The drug trade tends to find a way. You blocked it here. Is it going to go across land now? Probably. As you and I have talked about before, drugs in America are as much a demand problem as a supply problem, which is not to say that we shouldn't try to stop them. But it is to say that basically deciding that drug smuggling comes with it the death penalty, and Donald Trump is the judge, jury, and executioner for that, is a huge expansion of presidential power that I think is dangerous without a clear policy.
There's a gulf, and I guess you could say a distance between the cup and the lip in what you're saying here, because there's a difference between drug trafficking in the United States and in international waters. Here's Secretary Rubio answering your question about whether it's legal or not. Take a listen.
I don't think that the European Union gets to determine what international law is. They certainly don't get to determine is how the United States defends its national security. The United States is under attack from organized criminal narco-terrorists in our hemisphere, and the president is responding in the defense of our country.
Is it in the best interest of Democrats to effectively be saying, no, you can't stop drugs from coming in with military force?
That's not what we're saying. You know that's not what we're saying. Well, sorry, the first, you can stop drugs from coming in, but you can't just use the military to blow up whatever you want to blow up. But this, again, it's expansion of presidential power. There's a whole bunch of different ways to combat drug smuggling that don't involve the U.S. military waging war on boats in the Caribbean. So, and I don't disagree with Marco Rubio saying that European Union doesn't get to decide what international law is, but nor does the United States of America. We have to, well, we're supposed to adhere to our own laws and to the international treaties that we've signed on to. So that's really the question, not what the European Union decides, though it does have the practical effect, where Great Britain is concerned, of damaging a crucial intelligence and defense partnership.
I guess the point would be whether that's their problem or our problem, especially in the Caribbean. But
it's both. But yeah.
This is what Pete Hegseth wrote. Led by the Joint Task Force Southern Spear and Southern Command, this mission defends our homeland, removes narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, secures our homeland for the drugs that are killing our people. The Western Hemisphere is America's neighborhood, and we will protect it. The narco-terrorist line, we had said, starting 3 years ago on this program, why don't we treat drug cartels like terrorist organizations? There's far more people killed in America by the drug cartels and by their product than terrorists have ever killed. The question is this. President Obama droned people all over the world, inside sovereign countries, and Democrats didn't say boo about it, yet Donald Trump is blowing up drug smuggling boats in international waters, and suddenly everyone's crying about how illegal it is.
A couple of flaws in that. First of all, a whole lot of Democrats said boo about all of that. Your memory needs to be jogged a little bit about the controversy surrounding those decisions. Second of all, I draw a distinction, as I think we all should, between the attacks on 9/11, which was an armed effort to basically kill Americans, and the drug trade. You know, both are bad. One represents an armed conflict. The other one is in a different category. And if you expand the use of the military to protect us from the drug trade, again, I think that is a dramatic expansion of the use of the U.S. military. But if you want to move past the legality of this, what's the end game here? Do we really think blowing up a few dozen boats in international waters is going to significantly alter the presence of drugs in the U.S.? Again, remember, none of this touches fentanyl at all. This is all about cocaine, which is a problem too. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't touch what is the central problem. So you want to move past, you want to accept the legality, fine. What about the policy? What's the end game here? How long are we going to be doing this? And what does success look like? The administration hasn't told us either of those things yet.
Very true point, and one we actually made in War Notes, which brings us to our promo for War Notes. Congressman Adam Smith of Washington State, thank you, sir.
Thanks,
we did first write about this in War Notes. Your chance for an inside look at the show every day. It is free at warnotes.com.